Well, I'd rather.
You see, sure. You want me to stick around or after?
I don't see.
No, nobody's a driver. Yeah. For sure.
Hey, you, Jim.
I haven't even up there playing too. I'll be good. That's an achievement we had out there. Yeah, what?
Yeah, it'll be in the street. I got it on the list.
Jeff, how are you?
April, May.
Might be good for here. You go. Because I was at that light at 1:25 this week. Twice. But yeah, in the traffic was down there, it's all safe. I mean, almost to the gas station.
How'd everything go?
So I went to Sonic.
Yeah. That young man, hear your presentation.
Went the other way, to Sonic, and then I went back, I went out to
I'll have it up.
Clearwood, or
Have a separate clicker.
to Green Road, and came up that way.
I went straight across 518 to Green Drive.
Yeah, and then came that way. Yes, they've done something with the lights. I don't know what it is.
They at their best. They at their best.
They came in and they added. I'm sorry, what? I don't know how people are gonna start pumping tires. They're huge and they're so narrow. No, well, I think that's text on it.
It is.
I think that.
They don't give you much
anything to do with the city.
I've been there when they did meetings down to 6 in Manville.
I definitely.
We're sneaking up.
Any additional
So we're starting George Bush.
Western down there.
Was it that day?
Yes.
I think we're killing it.
I think it's down to 36 by 22.
I'm gay. It was good to see Louis today. Did you hear it?
Yeah, Dusty told me I was out of uniform, so. Howdy, everybody. How you doing? I call the meeting to order. Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District on December 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The district's office located 1605 Whitaker Drive, Springwood, Texas. I call the meeting to order, and we're going to have the invocation. You want to give it, Nick or Sam? You want to give the invocation? You want to give the prayer? Amy, y'all?
Okay.
Nick, you want to give it? How about David? You give it. Here we go. Everybody, please stand up for that in the pledges.
In the name of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. Forgive us our trespasses. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thy kingdom and power and glory forever. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the guise of the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God,
One.
Okay, citizens' comments, there's sign-up sheets in the back. If you haven't signed up, Don is not here. Any sign-up sheets at all? Nobody? All right. So we're going to go to number 5, presentations. Enhancing flood resilience and high-resolution data. It's a collaborative effort between Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District and the Texas A&M Institute for Disaster Resiliency, presented by Mr. Nick Diaz and Dr. Sam Brody. And before I get y'all up here, I just want to say that we had a meeting down at the, what hotel was that? The Element? The Element?
Oh, the Ion.
The Element, the Ion, close, Element, Ion. Anyway, I'm thinking in the right place. The Ion. And it was funny because David, myself, and Joseph, Sam, Nick, and his team were there, and we met after talking to them previously here at the district. And that's when we found out, and the story is that's when we found out that the previous board from way back when Harold was here had given Dr. Merrill, her predecessor. I'm thinking of Jackie Sherrill, I think in football, but Dr. Merrill, who's your predecessor, several $100,000 to further his studies. So we were thrilled to find that out and to know that we had dug up some old allies and could work with them up at the Institute for Disaster Resiliency up at A&M. So Nick has a presentation to give us. And Nick, if you get up here on the podium.
I'm going to introduce.
Sure, Dr. Brody, go ahead.
Nick, first of all, thank you to the board for inviting us to present today. Really appreciate it. We think this is such a good fit, and that couple $100,000 gift years ago, by the way, sparks the coastal spine protection project, which is the largest approved Army Corps of Engineer project in history, and helped catapult our work to the Institute that was created after the next big storm. Right? Coastal spine came out of Hurricane Ike in 2008. Hurricane Harvey was 2017. Next slide. Next slide. And at that point, the state said, enough is enough. We need to do better, particularly around harvesting the best data, the research, the technology, and using that to foster better decisions. So the state, in their wisdom after Hurricane Harvey, next slide, created the Institute, which came out of the Eye of the Storm report. So our group was tasked, I was tasked to do all the data analytics and make those recommendations to the state, 44 recommendations that was in the Eye of the Storm report. And one of those was to create the Institute. Next slide. Next slide. And this is the important component of the Institute is, again, to go from data to decision support. And we're only 4 years old. We're the largest now organization of its kind in the United States. We've got 4 projects with state agencies, 4+ different projects with 4 federal agencies. We've got numerous partners, and we're looking to expand. And the way we want to expand is finding the right fit for local partners. Our goal is not research. The goal is taking the data, the analytics, the research, the best minds, the smartest people like this guy, and converting it into understandable, interpretable, actionable tools. And we're starting to create those tools all over Texas and the nation. And a lot of folks are looking at us. But it's important when we move forward and expand our partnerships to find the right situation and the right fit that expresses what we're trying to do. Data analytics to decision support. And this project, I can't think of a better fit. And we discovered that instantly in our discussion. And not just this project, but going forward, lots of projects where we want to be really good local partners, reinvigorate that initial partnership, bring in students, whether it's from Texas or the Netherlands or somewhere else, bring in other faculty and really use Friendswood as a living laboratory to help make better decisions. I will say I'm biased because I lived here down the street literally for 8 years. So it's good to be back home in a lot of ways and address you here. I'm going to step out of the way. Next slide. And bring in Dr. Diaz, who literally is the brains behind our organization and has ownership over this project. He is leading the way in the technology we propose to use to help Friendswood. And because of that, Friendswood will be a first mover in this whole arena of data surveillance and technology. So Nick, thank you for coming. Thank you for all your hard work. I'll give you the stage.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bodie, and thanks Rusty and the Drainage District for having me. I'm not as smart as Dr. Bodie as he states, and definitely not as wise as him, but happy to be here and happy to share the support that we put together. We're calling this the data collection framework. We're bringing this together like many scanning technologies, many people, but I'm presenting on behalf of many individuals. But before we get into it, next slide, please. Let's just briefly cover the study area. Everything in yellow is what these scanning technologies are going to cover, spanning from the Clear Lake all the way to the Clear Creek. Clear Creek is about 43 miles in length, but we're only going to cover about half of that, going up to the Galveston County line there. And next slide, please. Getting into the actual data collection framework, we're going to use this fancy drone. It's called a wing truck to do some terrain mapping. So we're going to do 2D and 3D elevation mapping as well as wetland monitoring. And hit the next one, please. Switching from the drone, we're going to do some boat or offshore mapping, which utilizes side scan sonar, bathymetry, and sub-bottom profiling. Next slide, please. And then we're going to get away from the remote sensing and move into the nitty-gritty of getting our hands dirty with physical sampling, and that entails a sediment core. Next slide, please. Oh, I think you skipped it. And not only are we going to do each of these data collection approaches individually, but we're going to combine them and integrate them to fill in those gaps that often many studies don't utilize. They often go after one set of data, but they don't like combine them and fill in those gaps. So we're going to do that for you guys. And next slide, please. We're going to go into each of these components a little bit more. So starting with the terrain mapping via drone. Next slide, please. A little bit about the drone. This is the wing drone. It's one of the most efficient and cost-effective imaging drones out there. It can cover about 450 acres per flight hour. It has advanced GPS integration, so we're getting centimeter level accurate data. And then we're going to also combine this with high resolution sensors. So while we're flying at 400 feet in the air, we're actually seeing things that are 5 centimeters in the area. And lastly, this is DoD and NDAA compliant, meaning any federal or state projects that we're working with, we don't have any other paperwork that we have to navigate or get through. It's already ready to go. And next slide, please. Getting into the data collection, corridor mapping. Again, we're going to go after 2D mapping of the Clear Creek corridor and the Clear Lake perimeter. Think of this as satellite imagery, but just higher resolution. And then we're also going to do 3D digital elevation modeling, which aside from planar data, now we have a 3D model that we can manipulate and actually see that relief or slope of the corridors. We're going to switch out that camera for a multispectral camera and also perform multispectral imaging or vegetation health indexing. And this is important because the wetland root systems are key indicators for the silting and erosion around those corridor edges of that Clear Creek. So this is going to be combined with the boat sensing and scanning technologies as well as sediment core analysis to bridge those gaps that I was mentioning. Next slide, please. Getting into the offshore boat mapping. Next slide, please. Similar to the drone, we want to maintain those centimeter level accuracy. So we're going to deploy a RTK GPS positioning system and connect to existing datums or make sure that our data is as accurate or on the same playing field as existing Galveston drainage data sets. And then because we're going to be working in remote areas, we're likely going to have to deploy a RTK rover to establish our own data points and make sure that the data maintains those accuracies. And then we can also share those newly established data points with the drainage district as well. Once we have that data calibrated, we can then send out the scanning technologies. This one is the side scan sonar. Think of this as aerial photography, but underneath the water. So now we're seeing through those turbid waters and we're seeing the seafloor. And this is an image showing reef material in the Galveston Bay. And so this is going to be a similar image that you see for the the Clear Lake and the Clear Creek. And we're gonna be able to identify some objects at the bottom of the seafloor there. Next slide, please. We're also gonna do elevation profiling or bathymetry within these bodies of waters. And this goes hand in hand with that drone data. So not only do we have above the water on those sloped edges, but we're gonna have a continuous elevation profile going underneath the water and be able to map all those elevation profiles. Not only are we seeing through the water and seeing that bottom of the seafloor elevation, but we're also seeing underneath the sediment there using sub-bottom profiling. So think of this as mapping the sediment layers below the seafloor. Next one, please. And this allows us to create a 3D model of those sediment layers underneath. Combining this with the sediment core analysis. Next slide, please. We do sediment coring, which drives tubes into the ground and collect these for a sample of the sediment at that location. Next slide, please. And when we can't do a sediment core or the environment doesn't allow for a sediment core, we do surface level sampling using a grab sample or a clamshell. Next slide, please. And we're going to feed these samples of these cores and grab samples, all this sediment into an automated core logger, which does X-ray fluorescence and all this fancy scanning. So not only are we going to see the layers, but using elemental dating such as plutonium and lead dating, we're going to be able to establish when these layers were established and also how long they've been there, maybe even reference them to Harvey. So it's really neat technology we got here. Next slide, please. And the beauty about it is once we have the sampled data from the sediments, we can combine them with the scan data from the boat. So this is an image showing a tie-in between the sampled cores and the scan data. So the red/green bars in vertical motion are those sediment cores that we would take in the field. And then all the gray wavy image is the scan data. So obviously we can't sediment core the entire lake and the creek, but we can combine them and have a more extrapolated analysis. And obviously this is just one example. We're going to combine the drone data, the offshore mapping data, as well as the sediment core analysis. And it's cool to have fancy data, but what exactly does this mean for the district? Next slide, please. We're going to be able to identify, locate, and map this potentially obstructing objects within the Clear Lake and Clear Creek. And again, this combines that drone scan data and that boat data. Next slide, please. We're also going to be able to quantify the silting and erosion within the system by doing that wetland and silt monitoring. Again, this combines that sediment core analysis and the boat scan data. That way we can inform flood capacity as well as the dredging sites. And the next slide, please. Oh, the back one. And lastly, this is an investment. So we're going to be able to incorporate and leverage this data into future studies. Say we want to model the flood capacity in the area, or also go after inundation patterns or redefine the floodplain, go after that sponge land concept that was in the water codes. This is going to be the foundation for the next steps forward. And with that, I say thank you, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Questions from the board, and I'll open it up to audience too if they want to ask some questions, but anybody from the board first off that has any questions for me?
Have a comment. Very interesting. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
I love this project because, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're bringing all this technology we already have and paid for. How much did I pay for that drone? 50K?
Yes, sir.
So the idea is, we bought the technology and now we want to partner and use the technology. So you're leveraging all this existing, not just the data and the expertise, but the equipment as well. And so we could provide the service to this community at an incredibly reduced cost.
Absolutely. Yeah, this
With the whole plan.
This technology is 2 to 5 years new, depending on what type of drone you're looking at, what type of sensors and integrated GPS systems. This stuff is very state of the art. And the fact that we're not only have the drone, but both sensors and sediment coring. I mean, not a lot of the projects, like I said, combine all of this data.
Question, Mr. President. Dr. Diaz, what's the time frame in as far as knocking this out?
That drone is very efficient. The timeline for the boat scanning data is probably a little bit more lengthy just because of the compliance of the ports and getting a boat out there. We still have to do some preliminary surveys of how close we can get up to the creek, but regardless, it's going to be pretty quick.
That's very interesting. We appreciate the opportunity. You answered two of the problems right away. Toys you can't play with are pointless, and data without application is useless. We found something to do with your fancy toys, and then we can take the data and apply it to protecting our constituents and everyone in every direction, moving forward. So we really appreciate that.
Thanks for the feedback. We first met with Sam some months ago, and Sam, your dad was a contractor, and my dad was an engineer. And one of the things I love about what y'all are doing down there is it's applied science. Actually, something we can apply and make a difference in the field. And it's like your maritime service. Those guys, ladies and gentlemen, getting out of there with a skill. To go to work and high-paying jobs. And anyway, I'm just delighted you guys are here. I want to thank y'all for coming. And also, I'd like to recognize Jason Tiemann.
Yes.
You have to keep your hand on your wallet around him, but he's an A&M graduate, Coast Guard, former Coast Guard officer. He helped put a lot of this, put us together with Sam and Dr. Diaz. So anyway, I just want to say thank you.
And Jason, I wasn't going to forget you. I was about to bring you up, but it is a healthy alliance between Dr. Brody used to live here, what he's doing up there at the Institute. Sorry, I call you Nick, Dr. Diaz, not his name, but I like calling Nick. But anyway, the point is, and what Jason told me is true, but this is a beginning. I think we have to be armed here with a lot of good knowledge. The day's moved, and you're going to have these arguments. You're going to ask for money. You better have something to back it up. And the thing is, they're the experts, the best experts around here, probably maybe in the whole United States. But they're going to give us the necessary knowledge at a reduced cost because they're an educational institution. To when Samantha goes for grant work, or Scott has to verify something and they have to go give the goods to the feds. And I think eventually we're going to have some big projects around here that we've had in the past that are going to need some ump behind them. We're going to have some ump from some data and technology that's going to be irrefutable. We're going to have the people to deliver it. And you're going to have that marriage of knowledge, technology, and the data it produces to justify what you're asking for to participate in projects that maybe we initiate and they're organic with us, or they're organic from somebody else who's a lot smarter than us, and we get to join in because we're actually in the game. So this puts us in the game. And again, I'm very appreciative of David of introducing us to Jason, and Jason bringing to Sam and Dr. Diaz and your whole team. I like the guy who came that did the stuff in Singapore, and also y'all's Netherlands engineer / hydrologist. I mean, your team's super impressive. I wish they were all here so y'all can all meet these people and see them, but they're a wealth of knowledge. So again, from the Consolidated Drainage District, thank y'all, and we look forward to work with y'all here in the near future.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty, number 6, discussion and action items. A, approve or deny the final drainage plans for the SLI baseball training facility. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion on that. Any questions for Scott?
This was one of the first things we ever looked at. Yeah, great. Any updates, anything necessary?
File plan, they provided their textile permit, logo from the city. It's consistent with the preliminary plan that the board approved.
Yeah, I noticed they got the work.
Any other questions? Questions, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? B, and this is a long one, so y'all bear with me, and I'm going to read it all, and y'all can discuss it one by one, ask questions. This might take a while. Discussion and possible action. The Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District Design Criteria Manual changes. All changes are for commercial developments 20 acres or less in size. Commercial developments of 20 acres or less may use a 3-to-1 horizontal to vertical slope, side slopes, provided that a slope stability analysis performed and analysis supports the slopes. 2, commercial developments of 20 acres or less may use a 15-foot maintenance berm. 3, vertical wall for detention ponds. A vertical wall in lieu of a required 4-to-1 grass lined slopes will be permitted in a detention pond if all of the following requirements are met. Number one, the development is commercial, 20 acres in size or less, and the detention pond is privately maintained. Two, the applicant shall submit the detailed design and construction plans for the retaining wall signed and sealed by a structural engineer registered in the state of Texas. Three, the design of a dry pond must include a 12-foot wide concrete lined ramp on an 8-to-1 slope so that maintenance and mowing equipment can access the bottom of the pond. Additionally, concrete landings shall be placed at the bottom and top of the ramp and shall be a minimum of 12 feet in width and length. Four, the floor of a detention pond must have a concrete pilot channel to ensure quick and adequate drying of the bottom of the pond. Five, wet ponds must have 2 sides of earthen side slope meeting the district's criteria. 6, the required detention volume will be calculated amount of detention volume required plus 10%. 7, a letter from the city stating they will maintain the private pond in the event the development fails to maintain the said pond. 8, adequate measures must be incorporated in the design and constructed facility to prevent pedestrians and vehicles from falling into the detention facility. 9, no vertical wall within a detention pond shall be placed within 30 feet of a district drainage easement, district fee strip, or road of right of way. In other locations where a vertical wall is not adjacent to a road or district facility, a 3-foot safety setback is required. Permanent improvements within this 3-foot safety setback shall be limited to guardrails, fencing, and other safety measures. 4, walking trails, landscaping, and sitting benches are allowed within private commercial detention ponds and maintenance berms. That was a mouthful. Do I have a motion to discuss?
Second.
Got a second? Let's hear it. Any item or
Yes.
one by one, or however you'd like to do it?
First of all, could we vote separately, different items 1, 2, 3, and 4? The reason for that is we have an issue with 2 of them and support another 2, and I don't want to cast a negative vote for all of them.
I got you. I guess I can break them. Can I break?
So then you just make the motion and then second it.
Make a motion of what you want to do, Jim, so we can talk about it.
Motion to discuss items B1.
For general, so I think that
Sure. I mean,
what we'd be looking for is, so say a motion to consider each item individually and vote. Is that more?
Either way works.
Well, our discussion is our discussion, but I think his original point was
Was it-
the ability to vote each item up or down without affecting the other item. So that's
Really
the,
fine.
Second.
so you said, yeah. The-
You don't get a motion in order to consider them separately. You can just consider them.
let's just talk, let's go down the list. Then. Let's talk about item 1.
Okay. Can I start?
Yes, sir.
First of all, why did we set 20 acres?
Scott and I went through on all this stuff. It was kind of painful. We went through land in the city. We went through how we wanted it, what kind of side of the box we wanted to put this in. I wanted to put it to the board in a very contained box of 20 acres or less of commercial development in the city, because we really never have updated the criteria manual in this way for this type of development with this type of forward thinking on what we're doing. So we reviewed some of the other districts' policies and we came up with this. There's really nothing more to it than just really a brainstorming session and us coming up with all of this. Took a lot of time.
So let me ask a question, if you don't mind, Jim. What's the spirit of this thing? Is it not to put a undue burden on people that have smaller acreage, does that make sense? What's the?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, we're trying to
Most
not
of
put an
the
undue
tracks
pressure.
left are, constrained somehow with outfall depths and things like that.
Okay,
The reason I asked the question is, at your suggestion, Rusty, I've reviewed what Fairland had. And the stray ball is almost reverted out of there.
pretty close.
But interesting enough, they don't differentiate between residential or commercial. And all these parameters were designated for commercial with no size limitation. And so I didn't know if we want to consider just making it for all commercial development versus limiting it to 20 acres or not.
You know, I want to let the motion stand, and later on, maybe we could discuss that after we start with small size lots.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I like starting small in a box. Because I think that the changes,
Pilot program is-
the changes we made are pretty substantial, and the changes we made until really are positive changes for commercial development in Friendswood or League City. That's tough to develop, and it will give the developers more latitude without compromising the water to hold back. Matter of fact, it goes up 10%. That was some of our grab back. So we had one of those things where if y'all don't know how it works, we give some, but we grab some too. And we think it's a good compromise to have some yin and yang on that. And we think it's very fair because I think we gave a lot to people developing land, commercial land, and increasing the tax base and being pro-business in this city by these changes. I mean, these changes could be made a long time ago, but this board's the one who is open to change. But I want people to pay attention to that. And like I said, Scott and I worked hard on this, so it's not perfect, but there's not much in the world that is perfect. So anyway, that just to answer the spirit of it and kind of where we were going with that.
Okay. But if it we're open, maybe to changing it up or down.
I'm always open. Yes, sir.
On the bottom line, I'm concerned about the 3-to-1 horizontal slope. From a safety issue with the maintenance guys mowing it and that slope when you're going horizontal across. So only 3-to-1 that I know of would always require 4-to-1.
So that'd be more of the mowing with the arm and the excavator, you're trying to do all that slope mowing basically
No, you can mow that with a 15-footer all day long.
on the 3-to-1.
Yeah. So the reason, back in the mid 2000s, everybody started going to a 4-to-1 side slope, because the soils are changed so much. You get a bunch of rills and sloughing off. So this is the purpose. If they provide a slope stability analysis and it shows us the in-situ soil, the natural soil that's there will support that sloped out felling, then we would consider it on a case-by-case basis, right? But from my understanding, and I had a discussion with BD before, the maintenance guys years ago, they said they prefer to mow on a 3-to-1 side slope. It gets them down to the bottom of the pond quicker.
Is this a boom mower or a bat wing?
That way.
Remember, this is with an analysis, this allows, like I said, it gives them more latitude to developers that have a little more room. And yes, it's a little, but it's only, once again, it's only in a 20-acre or less commercial development. So we're not looking at going to 3-to-1 at this time on anything but what fits in this box. I want y'all to keep in mind, everything in here fits in the box of 20 acres commercial or less. And we can, it is kind of a pilot program per se, to see. It's kind of like, in the Constitution and stuff, they do state stuff first, and they, Texas or California lead the way. And if it works, they kind of roll it out to the whole nation. But yeah, we can roll this out, see how it works, like Jim's saying, and like you're saying, Jason. And if it works good, we don't have any problems. I don't even hear anything from Joseph, Scott, and our developers like it, and the citizens are good with it. I'm open to more progressive stuff that makes sense. I'm sure Kyle Kern's good to hear that too. I'm glad he's probably listening to that saying, yeah, where's my help? But that's what I think. Okay.
So in y'all's opinion, that's not a safety issue.
No, sir.
3-to-1 slope.
No, sir.
Safety or access, so just.
Yeah, no, sir.
The only potential issue then is increased maintenance if they don't do a stabilization study.
Yeah, if the slope stability analysis shows that the soil can't support that without filling, and they can't do it, right? They go back to the 4-1, the flatter slope.
Okay, thank you. That's the only questions I have. On that, are you ready to go to the next item?
I am.
Item 2. It's a 15-foot maintenance berm, no matter how deep the detention is. All our other criteria sets the width of the maintenance berm depending on the depth of the detention. So my question is, why do we want to go away from the depth guiding the maintenance berm width?
I might answer that, but I'll let you answer it first.
So, these are privately maintained ponds and, in tight situations, Jim, where they're, scratching for every square inch to make everything work detention wise. So it's just an option for them. Pearland has gone to this on commercial developments. They've allowed 15-foot. Amble has too. And it's just something that you can consider. If you don't want to do it, then that's up to the board, right? So it's just an option.
And I didn't find that in Missouri County District 4
Yeah.
in our criteria.
City of Pearland, yeah.
I didn't find it in there.
In Pearlands or in BD
In Fairlands. All they said was 4-1
Yeah.
everywhere.
4-1.
Based on the depth.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were trying to be progressive on a private facility, maintain private. And the good part about it is down there where I put in the caveat that it's a pretty strong one, because that means, and I'm sure you love this one, Hill, the city stated they will maintain the private line in the event development fails. So they have to get a letter from the city kind of on the strength of the economic strength. And it puts the city in the game too for maintaining this pond of this, and it kind of puts everybody's skin in the game, but it's to give them a little help on what they're trying to squeeze into. But once again, I think when you find later is they're going to be required to hold back all of our required detention we have per LCT plus 10%. So it makes it where we get to hold more water back for the citizens also in these types of spots.
If somebody goes in, does item 1 and 2, do we maintain that?
They're not going to be able to do without without doing everything. They're not going to be able to have a development without meeting all the criteria.
I guess what I'm getting at is all these requirements for private detentions, or if they follow all of these, are we going to maintain them?
So what he's saying, Scott, when he wrote how this is written, is if they don't, since number 6 falls under item 3, if they don't do vertical walls, is all I'm getting at with you?
Yeah.
If they don't do vertical walls, do we need to break this up and say something different?
Sure.
So in other words, they do commercial development, these 3-to-1 vertical slopes.
Yeah, we'll never maintain, right? If they wanted the district to maintain, they'd have to come get board approval. And at that point, the board would say, no, it doesn't meet our criteria for maintaining pond, which would be a dry pond, 4-to-1 side slope, 20-foot maintenance per.
But if they met all these criteria, it would meet our criteria.
Correct.
If
So if they wanted us to maintain it, kind of like the Forest of Friendswood, that back pond, we had to go back in and do a rehab, redesign
I
on it.
understand that, but the question was, do we want to put that we will not maintain these detentions if they follow it?
I think our general notes are state, privately maintained ponds are to be maintained by the HOA or the property owners.
Y'all are happy with that? I'm just not clear to me.
he's worried about something falling through
Yeah.
a loophole crack.
I mean, we can put that as
What
up there in the section for commercial development 20,
We can make it clear.
Just do a redirect C.
Holstered up, leave it up.
he's worried about somebody falling through the cracks and
Sure.
hey, we don't want to do, we're not subject to 3.
You can redefine the entire section of commercial developments of 20 acres or less with privately owned detention. So we could Even for.
calculate on detention ponds, yeah.
Yes.
Just to say that.
Yeah.
We will not maintain any private ponds,
Right.
20 acres or less, regardless.
Yeah.
We can,
If you're so.
we can do that with a caveat on the end of this deal when we go through it again. Okay, what else?
The lot number 3 and the lot number 4.
Jason, do you have any, I know you've talked about some of this stuff before, so do you have any,
So I do have a question on 6. The required detention volume will be calculated, amount of detention volume required plus 10%. So when I was originally reading this and wrapping my head around it, I reached out to Scott for some more clarity. In my mind, I'm trying to say years versus percent. So 100% of our standard is the Atlas 14 guidelines. That's our minimum and our maximum. That's the standard. The additional 10%, when you look at it, isn't much of an escalator on the total requirements. It wouldn't meet a 200-year storm requirement, a 250-year storm requirement. Certainly nothing that would come in an eventual Atlas 15 update. So I know it's a grab bag, as Rusty described it. My question would be, is it enough? Right? Would it be too onerous or expensive to make that number grow? Some percentile of that was effective long term. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because, and we've denied variances. That's pretty much what we've done since the beginning, because if it doesn't meet the criteria manual, we're not going to do it. So now we're considering altering the criteria manual to expand what is allowed and what can be done. Now, Councilwoman Branson at the previous council meeting said, all the easy land to develop is gone. Only the hard stuff remains. When Scott and I were talking, they also said that 30 years ago. So that means we're down to the really hard stuff. So making accommodations and changing helps everyone in the long run. My question is the grab back on the expansion of required detention enough? And anyone can answer.
We had this conversation, Scott, when you.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely enough. If 10% of your total 100-year storm event is a considerable amount of volume, and just mind you, I know we're not in this trying to make it easier on developers. We're trying to work with them, but typically the only time they'll ever want to go to a vertical wall, right? You're talking about more money to actually install that is when they're really tight on area to provide the required attention. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's just numbers don't add up. So if we keep adding more volume requirements, you're just not going to see them use it, which is just fine, but it's just going to make it more difficult to use.
My second question would be, prior to the 3 of us over here being on the board, a vertical wall detention situation was brought before the board, ultimately voted down. I remember the people in the audience were worried about safety concerns of a vertical wall pit. Does this assuage or alter those fears? I mean, you know what I mean?
Well,
Would they still be present in this development?
So if you look at it, at least 2 sides of the pond would have to be earth and side slope. So not all of it's going to be straight drop, right? And
then the fact that the verticals can't be within a certain amount of feet
right.
also helps. And I mean, I saw the parts about barriers and safety rails and stuff like that. That was the question that was raised from the audience that I was sitting in. So now that I'm here, I would ask the same question.
Sure.
That was it.
I'll say this, I'm not putting towards y'all the board, and I don't speak for y'all. This expanding, I don't know, Jim, I'm not really that, I'm not saying this is going to be expanded to any type of residential or any type of anything in the future. We wanted to put this, and Scott and I wanted to put this, and I instructed him to put it in a small box. Because I've heard so many times developers say that we have commercial developments, hardly any of them, and Jim made a good point, but hardly any of them are over 20 acres. We couldn't hardly think of anything. I mean, would it matter if we went to 25 or 20? Could they come in here and ask for a variance if they were 22.5 acres? Sure they could. To maybe fit this criteria, and the board could consider that. And I think the board would probably consider that. That's not crazy. But this wasn't meant to be a residential application.
Sure.
This wasn't meant to be a system that developed into a 4-wall, straight wall pump facility, for example. This isn't, in other words, I'm not making this to travel. Okay, this is a specific criteria change for developments that honestly, right now in Friendswood, it probably makes more sense. I think in League City, eventually, Matt, back there, y'all will get tight in the west side of Friendswood, but it's not very tight over there right now. Looks like I still can hunt some ducks out there, so it's not crazy tight over there right now. But in the future, in our western half, it could get tight, right? And this could come into play, and we could be further down the road a little bit on this. But I don't see this traveling to alleviate Jason's concerns in this. And yes, I do think eventually we will have higher standards, whether we like it or not, whether they're instituted by this body, or they're instituted on us by another Atlas plan. So, and we can cross that bridge when we get there. But I think this is y'all vote how you like, but I think this is a very fair representation of what we're trying to do. I think it helps out the tax base for the citizens. I think I think the city, it's good for the city of Friendswood. I think it's good for the development of the people here who want to develop some tough land and still have some standards that make sense for the folks who vote and pay the bulk of the taxes. That's just my 2 cents.
Last one, 4.
Sure.
I like 4, obviously. When the Council of Biosciences came in front of us and asked, hey, can we do this with the reforestation and everything else? That immediately fits into that box of things that we support. So I like that you address the callbacks there as far as we're still not ever gonna have to take it over. So that's the big caveat with that. And excuse me for ignorance on this, does the 10% also affect
I think 10% was just the clawback for vertical walls.
just for the vertical walls? So it has nothing to do.
The way it's written right now.
There's no additional
You can
requirement.
modify that if you want.
That was,
That's just up to the
I
board.
was just asking. For my attention.
Y'all, in the future, in the future, we can modify these criteria items. We could take some away. We could increase the size. Y'all could come up with something that y'all want to add to it. This is not something we can't modify in the future with what we see happening. And I do think with something this sweeping, even though it's not crazy, we really took all these out of other cities and districts and took the best and added some of our own twist and stuff. So none of this stuff is untested things. It might be untested in this format, specifically concoction. We might add a little oregano, a little cinnamon here, but nothing crazy. But we can continue to look at this. But yes, I do like the fact that we can talk a little bit different in Council of Biosciences and address some things that maybe we were a little strict on that helps out, the more appeal of the city of Friendswood and makes it a more livable and nice place with flooding and drainage being in the forefront. So, I'm not saying it's perfect. I think these, and that's why we are discussing, I think it's some good changes for the right reasons.
I like to throw in a couple of sets of that too. I like the spirit of it. I like a continual improvement process. I think it's important. I'm a guy that says if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, I'm up to look at new and better things. I think we should. I think we owe it to ourselves and to the city. And so I'm good with it. You know what? If we end up with a problem, we'll just have to make a change. We can fix it. But hey, you know what? The last guy that made every decision correct, they pretty much nailed him to a cross. So I'm behind him. And but I believe in the constant. I think we should look at everything. And we are pretty much looking at everything, our structure. So, maybe it's not perfect. Maybe we'll get stuck on something, but I like it.
I was tough to see what's here.
No, I'm not.
I have one additional question. 3, it says required 4-to-1 slope. If you stay with the 3-to-1, in item 1, is 4-to-1 right, or is it 3-to-1?
So I think if they're gonna do a wet pond, the caveat there is that they have to provide two sides that are 4-to-1, right?
If they're going to do a wet pond with, in other words, Jim, if they're gonna do a wet pond with 2 vertical walls, the other side slopes have to be 4-to-1, the grass slopes. That's how we wanted it. Is that how it says?
It says earth and side slopes. So Jim, you wanna be clarified where that's provided 4-to-1, is that what you're saying?
I just want to know if it's 3-to-1 or 4-to-1.
So is that number 5?
That's up to the board right now, the way if you.
That's in the
did
vertical,
everything,
that's in the vertical. So what I'm saying is, I like that in the vertical, if they do vertical walls, they can only have 2 vertical walls, and the other grass walls, they have to be 4-to-1.
So meet original criteria.
then it's 4-to-1.
I don't think that's clear.
Right, it's not. I'm looking at it now, looking at that,
So is that not addressed in 5 on the next page? Wet ponds must have at least 2 sides of earthen side slope meeting the district's criteria.
yeah, that's what we said. So if there's
So
a,
just enumerate of for.
yeah, if there's a, if, the thing about that, Scott, if there, I know we weren't crazy, if there's a wet pond, because only a wet pond, Jim, will have those vertical,
The side slopes requirements. Yeah, the dry pond could be all vertical, but our concerns are with the wet pond. Some might fall in, might be able to get out there,
Things are way out, right?
structurally more sound. It's up to the board whether or not you want to specify 4-to-1 there, or if the slope stability analysis show that they didn't have dispersed soils and the situ, the natural native soil would support that. That's y'all's fault.
I was pointing out it's not clear.
yeah,
Sure.
it's not clear between one.
I think the way it's written right now is if you use 3-to-1 side slopes with the slope stability analysis, you could use that on your 2 sides minimum on your vertical wet pond. You could use 3-to-1 side slope. That's the way I read that. So if you want to be clear and say that they have to use 4-to-1, then we need to write that in there.
So with a 4-to-1, they don't have to do that analysis, is what you're saying.
Correct.
With a 3-to-1, they had to provide that soil
The
analysis.
slope stability analysis.
Okay, this is a private pond again. That's a board question. So, so to clarify, if they use a soil analysis, they can do 3-to-1. But if they do not, and they just do it like they do,
Or if it doesn't meet.
correct, it has to be a 4-to-1 slope. This is only in private 20-acre commercial only. Remember, every time y'all think about this, remember, you're talking about a very specific use. It's almost like an SUP. It's a very specific use of a process where it's going to fall into this box.
The overlay district.
Yeah.
Talking zone.
Are you good with? Are y'all good with that? Where I mean, it's a 5-man. Are you a 5-person answer? Are y'all good with the analysis? It goes to 3-to-1 in this box for commercial. Once again, we're trying to give
Yeah,
them.
I don't have an issue.
I don't either. Not in this
The
box.
issue, it might even be clear if you eliminate 4-to-1 in item 3. You just put required glass line slopes.
Well,
And then they come and ask the question.
Well, if we're gonna do 3-to-1, we're gonna keep in the soil analysis in there, so they're not gonna have a choice. Then Jim, they're gonna provide soil analysis and support.
Otherwise, it reverts to the general standard.
Correct. Why don't we do that? Why don't we say 3-to-1 is allowed with a soil analysis in support of it? If not, it must be a 4-to-1.
I'll go.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
Here's, man, we're going back to the
Subsection.
BI. Is that what we're saying?
Yes. So what we're gonna say is we will allow 3-to-1 in this 20-acre SUP, I call it this 20-acre box we're creating for this development style. If they do an analysis of the soil that supports it, if not, it must be 4-to-1. So it's a required analysis for a 3-to-1. If not, it will be 4-to-1 per the district's requirements. That makes sense, Scott?
Are you gonna have a timeline on how recent the slope stability analysis needs to have been?
Well, that's a short one, yeah. Right.
Well, can we also add just to the approval of the district's engineer?
Yeah, I mean, they have to provide
The
the
solar
slope
structure.
stability analysis for us to even consider the plans.
Sure.
Or else there'd be a comment that says, hey, if you want to use 3 to 1,
Prior to.
provide the slope
It
stability.
just has to meet 3 to 1 now.
If you say no, then it's a no.
Mr. Anderson? Anything, what do you think?
I agree with it. Sounds good.
No, go ahead.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Hill. And this is the first time you've seen this.
Yeah, and I will say, on the 3 to 1, on the Harris County side of Brunswick, that's something that we have already been allowing with the slope stability analysis. So that's a good consideration to have. So these are definitely things that, although it's not within our design criteria manual, we do have a process where a person who's wanting to do development would do a design criteria modification request, and that's just as long as it's meeting your criteria, that's something that we can work with it.
Matt, is anything catching your attention?
First of all, I appreciate the flexibility that you guys are considering today. Only thing I would add is that, in League City, we're not in the business of maintaining ponds. So, I would say, if it's passed as written, you may not see many instances of that coming from us, because we're just not in the business of maintaining ponds.
Neither are we. Well, and portions may be relevant only to Friendswood, and then there may be additional caveats in the future from the city side. So it's not set in stone. I think we're all compromising on some things, but we're all also doing things that.
You ready to vote? All righty. With the modification of the 3 to 1 slope must come with a slope analysis that is approved by our district engineer. Otherwise, it reverts to a 4 to 1 grass slope as per district requirements. That's the modification. The action item. Do I have a motion? Approval?
Motion.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Samantha, will you accurately capture that modification to that? Okay, thank you. C, discussion and possible action. Adjust the signature block on preliminary plats and plans. The signatory authority stated in the design criteria manual to include the chief executive officer, Paige Bailey, and or the chief operating officer, Samantha Heritos. Do you have a motion for discussion?
Motion.
Second. Questions on that? That's pretty straightforward.
Still requiring 2 board members.
I don't think.
This is on
That's preliminary.
preliminary plans and plans, not finals.
So you're adding those, or you're taking the operation manager and engineer off, and then it's gonna be, Samantha and Paige signed it.
I think it just says we're just adding that.
Yeah.
And
Adding.
it's on preliminaries, so it's not.
Correct.
Right, we're just adding. We're not taking anybody off. It's just adding, unless I'm reading the motion wrong.
No, I was making sure I understood properly.
To
Do
include them.
you necessarily want me on there, or is the addition of Samantha enough? Because 4 is a lot on a preliminary.
It's and or.
It's
And
and
or.
And,
Okay.
yeah,
Not all, and yeah, that way.
I think it's just that way there's more flexibility. To sign it. Like if someone,
once again, I'm trying to get it where we can all submit plans that we can move along proper authorities. You'll take note on that back there. Yeah. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? D, discussion possible action, enact a computer and electronic device policy. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Motion.
Now, y'all going to give some context to this one.
Sure. Okay, so this actually pulls into E as well. Recent state law change to have to require all government entities to have a policy that addresses TikTok, the app, and other similar applications on government-owned devices. So while I was drafting that for you and for my other government clients, I noticed that y'all did not have any sort of computer, phone policies in place. And so this is just a basic one that I recommend that addresses internet usage, cell phone usage, appropriate usages of government resources. Starting point.
Standard boilerplate stuff.
Yeah, it's just missing from our meeting.
Mhm.
And then.
Don't use internet to access sites that you shouldn't be using. Don't use your phone for inappropriate use. Don't be on your phone when you should not be on your phone. Sort of basic, should be common sense items, but not necessarily are for the protection of the district.
I mean, so
We were thinking too, like if tablets come down the road, we would need to have some kind of.
so this is just a discussion and action to enact.
Yeah.
See, and then we're gonna go to E, which is going to adopt one that y'all can ask more specific questions on what we're adopting, correct?
Were they provided the policy that we drafted?
Both, yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. People.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
so all those in favor to enact a policy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. E, discussion and possible action, TikTok policy for government devices in compliance with Texas Legislator SB 1893. A motion discussed?
Motion.
Second. All right, let's talk about this. We have it, but
Essentially, the state says that government entities should not have TikTok on their devices due to security reasons. And so every government entity is required to enact a policy that prohibits the use of TikTok and similarly situated apps on government devices. So that is what I put in front of you, as well as the draft overarching computer and internet usage policy. So kind of both together, I think, create a good floor.
I have a question.
absolutely, I think we have a lot of questions.
What is defined as a district device?
Sure.
Let me make a definition. The district hadn't given me any electronic device,
Mhm.
so do I have to worry if I have TikTok on my phone?
On your personal cell phone?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Good, check. I don't. But
That is your personal choice on your personal device. However, there are I believe that there are 4 current cell phones that are issued to employees, as well as laptops. And there might be some iPads coming in, and all of those devices will have included in monitoring, so we can see what they do have on there, remote shutoffs, if there is concerns for that, the ability to go in and see what they're doing on them for data storage reasons as well as privacy reasons and security reasons. And we'll be able to ensure that TikTok is not being used or any of the other similarly situated apps that the state has said are, prohibited out of. So, be good.
David, I don't have any questions on this.
No, I'm good. It's all pretty common stuff.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7, resolutions.
Did we just vote on both of these?
We did.
Okay.
A, resolution 2024-5, a resolution of the Board of Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District, Texas, authorizing the board president to execute the sub-recipient agreement for TDM administered grant awards with the Texas Division of Emergency Management, which is what TDM stands for. Do I have a motion? It's a resolution. Do we just vote on this, or can we discuss this? Can't we? On the motion, discuss.
Go ahead.
Motion discuss. Do I have a motion?
Motion, second.
Okay. And then Jim second. All right. Samantha, what just run down
Sure.
reasoning?
So in response to Hurricane Beryl, We've been in discussion with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, TDM, and so they're administering the disaster recovery grant for FEMA, and we have to designate like a mayor or a certifying official to sign documents. And so we are requesting that the board provide Rusty permission to sign anywhere where we need executive signatures on those documents.
I recommend before the district enters into any sort of contractual agreement that the entire board approves it and authorizes one person to execute documents.
Three, I like that too. I don't like signing things without having some backup. So do we have to modify it to say that?
No, we're good.
Okay, so we're just saying that I'll eventually sign it after we all look at it. Correct?
They're not provided.
That's fine. It was like 40 pages, so I didn't want to print all of it out to attach to the documents, but I can email it, or if you want, I can print.
Come January, I believe that all the documentation will be provided electronically, so that y'all won't have to leave your day jobs or your other engagements to come and pick up a folder. So that should be changing in the near future. But if you'd like to review the entire document in full before you approve it, or if you want to approve it conditional on reviewing it within the next week or so, that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is for, so the agreement, but also there will be times within the TDM portal that you may have to, we'll have to have a signature. So it's not just one document. I think it's like, this is for
It's
any
like
instances related to the disaster recovery.
This is kind of formality.
I'm interested in looking at it, but I gotta tell you, I'm against anything that, I don't know, let's put it this way. I'm for anything we can do to help separate them from their money.
Yes.
For us,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, with getting busy, with getting that FEMA money, you know, to get the job done, okay, get reimbursed for the job we have. This is TDM, but it's just kind of a formality deal is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, I don't think it's, I think it's a sign dimension anyway.
I have reviewed it in full, and then I had a separate meeting about approximately an hour with Samantha. We went provision through provision about what was required of the district, what was required of TDM, and to go through each entire item to figure out if we were okay with it. And in my opinion, it's fine.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? B, resolution 2024-6, a resolution stating that no individual shall serve as a board member of the district more than 3 terms of 4 years each, or a cumulative total of 12 years. This limit shall apply regardless of whether the years served are consecutive or non-consecutive. So this is basically term limits for the consolidated drainage district, which I personally love. I think it's good. I think 12 years is enough.
Really quick, the item that was in your packet page has a more updated version, but we are allowed to adjust the resolution language to make sure we'll make sure everybody agrees on the language if you're not in agreement with something.
Let's give them to discuss.
Yeah.
Motion discuss.
Second.
There you go. Okay. Discussion on it. And then does everybody have the resolution language? Okay. Okay. And y'all need to ask.
That's not pages though. That's what was in there because they picked up their packets like before.
Oh, you need to have.
It was like a place.
Can we punt it?
No, we can talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. No, I don't want to punt.
This is the previous,
This isn't-
one we just voted on, resolution 2024.
I know. We're at 6 term limits.
I love term limits.
I do too.
Let's make a motion to discuss it. I'll make.
We did. We already did.
All right, let's vote.
Well, let's discuss it. I want y'all to ask Paige, because there are questions about, Paige, cover with them how it's gonna work, because we do have, per the water code, where it's different, we do have split terms that can happen because of potential board and appointments that could happen in the future. So explain your resolution and how that's gonna work specifically.
Okay, so the resolution I drafted is a bit different. It states 3 terms or 12 years However, it has a caveat that partially served terms, if you serve a partial term of 24 months or less, it is not included in that 12 years. If you serve a partial term of 2 years or more, in the very small chance that that could actually occur, it counts as that full term. Because what we're not worried about that, say in the beginning, somebody serves a partial term and then they run and they have term 1 and they run again, they have term 2. Well, say they run again, term 3, and they get a year and a half into it or 2 years and they've reached 12 years exactly. We have almost no enforcement mechanism to have them just essentially quit the board of their own will. Whereas if we kind of don't count that first under 2 years as a term, then at the end of the third term that they serve full 4 years, they become essentially ineligible to run again.
If, with the original,
The resolution I provided, which we'll get that to you.
we need to have that.
I agree.
Can we get that in front of us right now?
Yeah, I can
Your
carry.
friend settle?
Okay, so while we're waiting, while we're waiting, so what she's saying, just a plain language, Joseph type language, I call it, I won't say what I call it. But Joseph type language is if there's a low chance that with an appointment, it's going to exceed 2 years because you must run at the next scheduled election. So it'd be very difficult. I guess there is a situation that's
called
could
COVID.
yeah, I'm saying there is a situation. There are situations I think we would have to visit this and have a board vote. However, I think the language catches 99% of what's going to occur because if there's an appointment, you know, of let's say one of y'all three, for example, right now that had more than time left, they would serve more than 2 years and it would count as a full term. Okay, let's say one Jim or I bolted. They're going to serve less than 2 years because the next vote's coming up in less than 2 years, and that would not count as a full term. So, and of course, it's self-explanatory for people who run and get elected 3 terms. At your third term, you're done. But since the water code, unlike the civil code of the state, does allow appointments, there is some the attorneys are worried about, you know, if you pass term limits of people having the clear language to go. So that's the reason for the language of less than 2 years does not count as a full term. Anything more than 2 years does. Does that make more sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
That clears up my question.
Does.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought
All right.
Paige was saying less than 1 year, but less than 2 years works.
Less than 2 years doesn't count as a full term. Anything over 2 years would, but less than 2 years would not. So you can hypothetically have somebody who could serve, you know, almost 14 years.
Yes.
I'm with you.
It's easier to prevent somebody from getting into the office once they're ineligible than it is to get somebody out once they've reached 12 years exactly.
And I'm curious, as just sitting here on the board, does anybody really think that 12 years up here isn't long enough?
It's too long.
I agree with you. Hey, I get another 2 if y'all want me, but I didn't want to press my luck. I think 2 terms is long enough, but I'll settle for 3. Once again, it's one of the things we can visit later. But I want your language before we have a vote or further discussion. We can discuss all we want. I want y'all to have the exact resolution written in front of you.
And there appears to be a typo as well. It should be resolution 2024-6.
I said that.
Oh, 6? Oh, on my agenda, it says 2024-5. Okay. On both A and B.
It says 6 here.
Oh,
The posted agenda is different.
Is it?
yeah, the post agenda says 5-5 on the.
Yeah.
But while we're getting that, y'all want to consider the consent agenda, we'll circle.
I think we're here.
Sorry, it was out, so maybe I tried to put resolutions together to the best of my ability.
Thank you. No, they did a great job. I think.
It's hard to go on vacation as an attorney.
Thank you.
Paige, do I need to put the vote when I ask for it here in a second? 2024-6, I want to be accurate, or is it 2024- something else?
2024 said,
Yeah.
Thank you.
6.
yes,
It's six.
That's what I want to say what it is too, just to make sure I capture this.
Is this, okay with the water, with the water code, the water, that state of Texas? I mean, they're,
We have the
we have
authority.
the authority to see this.
There is no conflicts in 49, 56, or any of the government code provisions.
That way, people like Randy Hell and freaking other people, Don can freaking jump up here and go, take your turn in the bucket. Yeah, I like this. Limit how long we can be here. I hope the citizens like that. I think that's good. I think term limits is a great thing. Any other discussion? Jason, I know you like to discuss this. Good?
I just see both sides of the coin.
Kim?
I'm good.
Okay, resolution 2024-6 regarding to term limits as described by Paige here in this resolution and discussed. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? I like it. Thank you all guys. That's excellent. Great work. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Samantha, for getting that. The consent agenda. Got to break this up. I can't remember. Approval of the bills and approval of the minutes. Do I have any? There were some minutes. Did you notice them? I noticed some minutes that were off a little bit. I wanted you to correct, Samantha.
Okay. Did we, really quick, what did we determine for the item IV for 6?
Going way back.
Yeah.
No change.
No change. We approved all of them.
So on the minutes, I wanted to just on what I said, I had some written down, but come to my sheet. We want things to do. We want to refresh my operation. We want creek and this moment. Oh, we want the creeks and the ditch flowing and every blade of grass mowed. You know, not, I mean, yes, we want it out of the creek, but I would say we want the district to operate and for everything to be flowing at peak rate and every blade of grass mowed in our areas and right of ways and by the creek. So we have a peak performance at all time until we run across projects that we deem valuable to do. What did I say here? We can still do it. Oh, the Corps did recognize silting levels, and they did say in our meeting, David, I don't want to say what they said specifically, but they did say if we could bring them data through people like IDRT
Yes.
and technology, and we could prove it, that we would have a much better chance of getting something done through them and fitting in one of their boxes.
Yes, that's what I recall.
I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. And yes, that is some outside of the box thinking, they said. We talked about League City and moving things along with League City. I don't know about moving things down. Yeah, we need to move some water down there too and down to the bay. But that's in conjunction with working with League City. Mays was going to help work with Nick and League City to help us with the lower water flow out of here and getting it gone. That's it.
I have a question for the board. Do you like the minutes being, almost verbatim minutes, or would you have an opposition to the minutes being changed to action minutes in the future? Shorter, more concise,
Well,
considering that the meetings are recorded.
if they're going to be like this, they need to be accurate
Mhm.
and they're on video.
I think it might be a better use of resources for Samantha to be able to be more present in meetings if she were able to focus on being in the meeting and responding rather than having to dictate what is said, especially since the meetings are recorded in a way. And I just wanted to take your temperature on that.
There's no vote, there's no action on that.
Question for you, do other districts do that?
You are the only district that I know that takes verbatim minutes
Okay. One-
because of the resources that are used and everything. It's employee heavy.
At my advanced age, and Jim, I'm about making an age issue here. I'm a lot older than you are. I like to read bullets. When I write a letter, I usually do points. And sum it up. And I think it's just easier to read. You know, it is all recorded, so we have to go back, but that's my opinion.
And I don't need to vote on that.
No, we don't have an action on it, but I'll tell you what, try it out and let us see. We're flexible. We'll check it.
I'm on with the summary, and I think that's what Joseph did previously.
Yeah, that's what he.
So Joseph.
There was also a woman in attendance at one of our meetings that offered since the transcription service. Was if we wanted to be out, I understand, but if we wanted to be more literal than outside of using correct stuff.
The government code says as long as you have a recording of it in action minutes, that's really all you need.
Yeah.
Anything above and beyond that is entity specific.
Does anybody else have any issues with the bills they want to pull out and discuss or the minutes? No.
Move to approve.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Operation manager report, Mr. Anderson. Sounds like the Matrix. Mr. Anderson.
It's kind of been slow with the weather, so you can see them on those invoices from DC and ProScape, and they are starting to get back to mowing and stuff now, and thank y'all for all attending the Christmas party Friday. It turned out well.
Great food.
Who did the food?
Bensix,
It was so good.
East Bernard, so yeah, they did a really good job.
Nice.
And
Where they from again?
Huh?
Where they from again? Where they from? Where they from?
What do you think?
Say it again, where?
God's country. East Bernard.
Okay, that's one.
I'm here to say.
No, I've known Garrett, the owner of it. I've known
How
the
do you spell
family.
their?
It's Vincix.
Vincek.
That was good.
Yeah, very good.
But they got that Gary and I, we went to school together our families known each other forever, but they got a butcher shop. They serve lunches every day, cater. Their specialty is chicken fried steak and chicken fried chicken. And so.
Well, it was delicious.
It was.
But that's pretty much all I got to report, and I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Be careful out there.
Okay, administrative manager.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Seriously, guys, sorry, Jeff.
I didn't notice any bills associated with the Castlewood 3 ponds.
They wait.
Does that mean we're finished?
No, we're waiting for the weather to get better. We need to do some slow paving on the outfall pilot channels, and then it'll be finished. And then we'll hydro mulch it.
Anybody else, anything? So I'll have you fast. Administrative manager report.
He's in there with Derek.
She's not gonna come up. Okay. Let's move to the district engineer report. Mr. Scott.
Sure. It's been a busy month. Got several reviews. Joseph and I actually signed a couple of plats for Georgetown, preliminary plats for phase 2 of Sherry Lane and Georgetown Boulevard, 2 separate plats there. We signed that on Monday, right?
Mhm.
We've got some other reviews in, and it's a lot of corresponding with potential projects. There's another commercial development coming up down here off of 128. I've got a meeting with I believe Thursday. Just kind of they want to go over the criteria, talk about it with me, make sure they're on the same page. So that's it. Do you have any questions?
Did you provide us the plats individually? Like, we always, they're in our packet one day.
They should have been in my agenda.
There,
Agenda item letter.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
yeah, I read it.
You look at those, Jim. Give it to us. Jim?
It's just a run log there for 24. I'll probably reset in 25.
Okay.
That you should-
We need to, just make sure also that we keep on that. Did you ever get a answer on that knuckle boom crane and everything else? Do we have all that squared away?
Yeah, I believe everything's waiting on the district to provide the 50% deposits for both the trailer and that. So they said that really the only items that break are hydraulic hoses and chains for the saw. He said, and those are just general items that you would get around here, right?
Oh, because Jim had mentioned.
Yeah, I saw a note about that, about saying that you didn't think, there was a note in there saying you didn't think, somebody didn't think, they didn't think that
Yeah,
a service
parts,
was necessary.
correct.
Why did they say that?
They said that there's nothing on it that's gonna break that wouldn't be sourceable, is what they're saying. The things that are gonna wear, they're gonna wear normally, that you would need that, or is the chain for the saw and hydraulic hoses, which you would source locally from a hose company, or it's just a universal chain for the saw.
Something, what Jim was worried about is any things that break, have a lead time that would be,
Is this the
extravagant.
part that's made overseas or whatever?
Yes,
Okay.
So nothing that would have a long lead time.
that's what the manufacturer said.
I don't believe.
I've worked on too many airplanes. We've seen too many airplanes. Yeah, David.
There's a reason this makes two of everything, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
He contacted the manufacturer, they have recommended parts package is what he said. Said the two things that wear out most are your motors and your.
We can get those made in a
I
day.
guess Jim talked about spares. We're talking about spares or.
That's what he said.
So.
I was thinking gearboxes.
Yeah. So,
Things like that.
but they don't recommend any.
Correct. Which is a good thing. They probably,
It's good if they're right.
yeah, you're right. I won't know. So,
Yeah, it's
Not
good.
an
and then we
issue,
might have to press it for an extra gearbox if we blow one up.
not an issue getting metric chains or metric fittings on hydraulic hoses.
So, sir. I think most of the tractors nowadays are metric. Your Kubotas and your Mahindras and the such are.
All right, you'll get 13, Samantha, Chief Executive Officer of Operations. About financial procurement partnerships and strategic planning.
So we're moving along with the hazard mitigation plan. Staff have been, I think we're having our second meeting tomorrow. So we've been getting them a lot of documentation, getting stakeholder lists together for that. Then the disaster recovery grant, a lot of the information is going to be due here in January. So Joseph and I and Kathy have been working on that. And that's really most of what I have, like most of my time has been spent on those two items. There are a few different grant opportunities that are that have either just opened up or will be coming open soon. And so on the next agenda, there will probably be some items related to that. But
Tell the board about our January 18th, I believe, hazard mitigation plan that we have. Is it the 18th? We have it set with them?
the disaster recovery meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's I'm checking the calendar. We're we had 60 days from our last meeting to get the information together on debris and shoreline erosion. And so we'll be, like timesheets for our workers, any contracting efforts we've had, we're pulling all that together. And then there may be some opportunities for mitigation funds as well.
Like we're gonna meet that deadline with them, with them. You're gonna be on board by the 6th. I know we have to, but are we?
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
That's something ASAP, that when you get on board, that you're gonna have 12 days to make sure they should have it together, but 12 days to button it up to present to them when they come back. There's a group of about 6 of them, I think, 5 or 6 of them that come, a team. And that's for some recovery services for the district on money spent for like Barrel, for
Barrel.
example.
It's just Barrel, yeah, Hurricane Barrel disaster recovery.
All right, thank you. Thanks for that. January 6th, Age is our general counsel for y'all, Paige Bailey here for y'all that have seen her around here lately. She will be our chief executive officer of operations and general counsel starting January 6th. She's kind of in that role almost right now. She spent a lot of time up here. So Paige, you want to give your general counsel report really for the last time? Or a full report?
Did not have one prepared. My report, I guess, is that I'm really excited to come on in January and that we've got some really fun, exciting things coming.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
You're gonna be so busy.
That's what I'm excited. If I'm bored, I'm not doing my job.
But thanks. We look forward to it.
Takes appointment in here for me. You turned to hear me say that.
All right, Robert Griffon is at a Masonic Lodge Christmas party, so he's not here, but we do have a good representation from the city engineer here. So, Bill Nether, y'all.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Just wanted to share, hopefully at our January council meeting, our council will be approving the contract for the master drainage plans. We've got a couple of stakeholder meetings that are included in scope, and we'll be meeting with you guys one-on-one to get your feedback and make sure we're capturing everything that we've had some discussions over the course of the past couple of months on that. Make sure we're right on that. On the development side, Brunswick Trails, they're getting pretty close to being done for sections 4A, 3A, 4B, and 5A. They have a little bit of infrastructure work left to do. Texas New Mexico Power is installing their electric power right now. And then I'm anticipating that being done here within the next couple of weeks. And then that will be ready to take off for houses to be built. Georgetown, heard Scott made mention of it. One of the major hurdles that we had for Georgetown was serving it with water and sewer. So we had the city has had some back and forth with the developer, and we have a utility service agreement that will be modifying. And we finally came to an agreement on how that's going to look. And so I anticipate that happening here pretty soon, within the next month or two, which will pave the way for Georgetown to finally move forward in earnest.
Nothing to add.
Oh, I thought that was the first 50%. Yours is next.
The boss man got it all.
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
We had a meeting today with Stephen Ray about, y'all probably aware of, Scott and I, Joseph, about Baker Road and some stuff over there. I don't know if you all know about that. I'm sure you did. Aubrey was in there. So thought maybe one of y'all would be in there, but no. So anyway, you know about it, right? Anything I need to worry about? It might be some facilities and structures over there. I don't know if they need to be involved with, but
Sure, once they start digging in the nuts and bolts, so we'd be dealing with Hill.
Yeah.
just FYI. But any questions for Steve? Any questions for him? Okay. Matt, you were here for the city of League City.
As usual, just an update on development on that west side, Westland Ranch. I think since the last time we met, or at least the last update I gave you, Molden Parkway headed further east was still under construction, and sections 8 and 9, which are adjacent to that, were still under construction. Since then, those have been completed. So I anticipate that developer to get started on section 10 here pretty soon, which is also on the northern half of the Westland Ranch development. And then also on the southern portion, which is the lake section, Magnolia Bayou Drive, we did an abbreviated inspection of that roadway because they've completed everything except the text dot portion, which ties in the FM 517. Last update I got was that they anticipate that connection to be made sometime in January, hopefully early January, maybe mid-January, but sometime in January. But so Magnolia Bayou Drive is fairly close. The section adjacent to that is Lakes of Westland Ranch, section 6A and 6B. Essentially all that's left in that is some utility testing, some videos, that kind of thing. So just kind of waiting on this roadway to be completed so that section can be accepted as well. And then I'd imagine that next section will be section 1, I believe, which is down there on the southern portion. And then, I always give you guys an update on the legacy development. They are, moving full steam ahead on their roadways and their sections. Legacy Drive, West Boulevard, their ponds are being excavated at this time, but so that's the first order of business is the drainage. But they've also been authorized to get started on their roadways, which are Legacy Drive or Legacy Boulevard and West Drive. Then they've also got approvals to sections 1 and 2 so far. And they've got utility installation started on a lot of this stuff. So making headway there. But I believe that's all the update I got for you on the west side.
Has Katie and LGA, after that last interactive deal, I know it's not exactly what you're talking about, but have they had any more meetings or feedback did they have any feedback at all from that last meeting they had over there in League City? I think Scott,
Or same,
Jason,
same and I was the last time.
Development master.
the last meeting y'all had, did y'all get any feedback or anything?
Yeah, so I remember, I knew there was a public meeting that occurred. I wasn't in attendance. I hadn't been involved in that effort, but I believe we got some feedback. I'll try to get you some info on that.
How are they giving y'all any, are they pumping y'all any information from that and saying, here's what is being said? Are they feeding?
Not from the public, I haven't heard anything.
What about from Katie? Is she feeding on any information that is useful or anything at all?
Not unless we usually ask for it, but it's something I can certainly get feedback.
Well, option A.
They were kind of engaged already with their development before they started that process, so they're one of the ones that are kind of locked in, because they've been through the whole development process.
Yeah, this would be more analyzing
Yeah.
tracks that are still owned.
So they're not going to be subject to anything they suggest.
Yeah, I think they're too far along, Lexi is.
Did y'all go, let me ask you this before, I'm just curious, this is just retro questions. Before, when y'all were doing y'all stuff and y'all were locked in, did y'all ever did League City go through that same process, or are they being more thoughtful now and engaging the public and discussing this stuff? Before, Matt, you might know this, before they would cut it loose with them, did they go through the same process, or are they being more thoughtful now on how they do things?
At least in my time here with the city, which is coming up on 6 years now, the first time I've seen us go through this effort as far as, this west side development.
Who's spearheading that? Is that Chris or is that Baumgartner or is that Nick? Who's the catalyst behind? I mean, I like it, but who's the catalyst behind that?
I would tell you, Chris Sims is the executive director of development.
So your boss.
He's the head guy when it comes to.
He's a smart guy. That's smart for you to say that. That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
And I think on the Lexi development, Rusty, if they were gonna do some kind of zone change or use change, then it would be subject to probably public hearings and whatnot, zoning. But as far as like this overall master plan where they're going through and trying to do what the city feels needs to be done with, commercial and the looks that they want and everything, I don't think they've done anything before.
Okay. Fair enough. Any questions for Matt? No. All righty, board of directors report, Mr. Gibson.
I attended the Clear Creek Watershed Steering Committee meeting today and learned that Dickinson has gotten money from the GLO from borough cleanup, which is the first I've heard about GLO providing money. And also League City was, I believe, trying to get money from GLO, but was having difficulty getting it. And Bill, you were in attendance. Do you have any other updates? Well, before you answer that, I had one question. The city Robert talked about the city going forward with a Deepwood project. Is that separate than what we're trying to do with interlocal agreements?
Yes, that's separate. What we're trying to do with the interlocal agreement, does not include those properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything I left out on significance on the Third Creek watershed?
No, we did hear a update from the Harris County Flood Control District. And one of the things that was mentioned was the Mud Gully project. They're going to have a ribbon cutting. I think Samantha's got the information on that. I'm not planning on attending, but if that's something that's interesting to you guys, she'll have that information for you guys. But and then they just gave a general update on the rest of our projects and introduced a new one, which is the Wickham terracing project. That's going to be their partnership project with the city that we'll be doing right there south of Clear Creek Community Church. So we'll be terracing that.
Thank you. The project on having river cutting is the Mud Gully Conveyance Project, which is not to our benefit.
We talking about this? No, we've had a good conversation about this already. I'll tell you about, yeah. That's, yeah, I'll be fun with seeing it.
Still working on trying to get the interlocal agreements done. Talk with Mo, and we're gonna have a meeting Thursday to discuss how we might make all that accomplished. And the side note, if we're unable to make those work, I'd like for this board to look at doing something with the 10 acres that we own in the Forest of Friendswood. So it'll be unencumbered by anybody other than ourselves.
Can you provide that for us for the next meeting, what he's talking about?
Is that the one that's under core review right now?
Yeah, so the Corps is doing a jurisdictional determination on it.
Yeah.
If you can have that for hand and pull that up next meeting.
Sure. I can link it.
And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and thank the audience for hanging with us.
Yeah, I'd like to say Merry Christmas. I'm really excited about all the things, and I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 6 months. I'm not a big one, I laugh at the Academy Awards, they all get up there and pat themselves on the back for doing what they're doing. I'm just the kind of guy that, I'm excited about what we're doing, but I'm not going to pat myself on the back for doing my job, what the voters asked us to do. So, but I have enjoyed, I've learned a lot from my fellow board members, from our staff, from you guys. Heather's calmed me down on occasion, not being in a hurry for the money, but anyway, I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming, for being here. Don Johnson, thank you. You've been a great help to us. Melissa is the second most patient woman in the room when my wife's not here. Anyway, Matt, Hill, Kyle, I don't know you, and I don't know you.
Tom Kuban with SLI Group.
Okay, Tom.
Baseball training.
So thanks for being here.
Patiently sat through the whole meeting.
Yeah.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Didn't have to answer any questions.
Kim?
There's your first question. Yeah.
I just want to say Merry Christmas. Learned a lot since being voted in May, and I look forward to keeping on learning. has been, it's fun and, it's exciting to see what we're doing, how we're moving forward.
I second Kim's thought. We have learned a lot. We have a lot left to learn. In the spirit of the season, I will play nice. In January, I may not. We'll find out. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. I do want to remind, Urban Community Prayer Breakfast is Saturday morning. So I'll see some people.
Yep. Merry Christmas. That's all I have from the board. Appreciate it. And thank you all for hanging in there, for all our stuff. We'll see you on January. We are going to convene into executive session per resolution
Per government.
Government code.
1071.
551.1071.
For matters, involving the district's attorney that cannot be discussed without being in closed session.
And we will return into regular session after that to close it out.
So don't leave.
We need 2 people to sign these plans. Please.
We're just gonna need it.
Thanks for sitting in there.
You don't have no signatures or anything?
Yeah. You have to do that, but I'll bring.
I don't know, I was just playing the same, but I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, you were first. You could have bolted.
That's fine, it was interesting to hear. I need to,
What's your name?
Kind of over construction and everything.
yeah, we need to.
I can see we probably need to have like. Yeah, normally, leader.
Just like to me.
Yeah. So that's, yes, you want.
No.
Yeah, normally my crew leader, I'll get you in contact with him. I'll give you one.